Enwhitelement. Enwhitelement.
Read a book, you illiterate son of a bitch. Step up your vocab.
Hey everybody, Cree Miles here, aka Black Emily Dickinson. Peace and blessings to you all. Peace of Christ be with you, and also with me. Subscribe, like, etc. I'm here today to do a fun video that was inspired by my homie who texted me a few weeks ago completely out of the blue. And she was like, hey, Cree, I'm just wondering if you have any book recommendations in dealing with enwhitelement. I was like, girl, what is enwhitelement? And she was like, you know, enwhitelement, that extremely unique entitlement that comes from white people. So after I died laughing for a few minutes, I gave her some book recommendations, but then I was like, you know what, we actually need to take this to the streets. Like, this is knowledge everybody needs to have. So I compiled a list of 10 books that I love. A lot of them are actually part of probably my personal canon, and if you are watching this as a bookstagrammer, you've probably read all of these. These are pretty 101, but if you are not a bookstagrammer and you want to become more fluent in your self-awareness or how you navigate the world or how you navigate other people's bullshit, and by other people, I specifically mean, in this case, white people, then you need to just roll with me, okay? Also, a disclaimer, no white people were harmed in the making of this video. Sincerely not my intention to offend anyone, just to live my truth. So I gave you the definition of enwhitelement. Some specific examples that I thought of were, one, my father, his name is Girgis, and it's spelled G-E-R-V-I-S, and occasionally people will argue with him about how his name should be pronounced because it's G-E-R. They, for some reason, say it should be Girgis. And when I say people, I'm actually meaning white people are the only people who have ever told my father that he is pronouncing his name that he's had for 57 years incorrectly. Or, more recently, a white person sliding into my DMs and asking me to explain why black people are upset with white people bringing up Kobe's rape allegations during the grieving of his untimely passing. Asking me to do the labor for them because they don't get it. They can't bridge the gap. So, I hope those examples work for you all. So, number one on the list, for sure, that you need to read if you need to suit up to face this world, is Eloquent by Dr. Brittney Cooper. One of my favorite reads last year. She talks about nuances regarding race and gender, colorism, pretty privilege, all these things that I just feel like don't get talked enough in all of their intersections. Those are Venn diagrams. So if you need to face this weary white world and you're tired, that book will help energize you and give you the language to deal with the bullshit. So next, number two, required reading. It's part of the Black Canon, right? Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi. Beautiful letter to his son about how to navigate the world as a black man and what it means and what it looks like sometimes. I read this book 8 years ago, so I do remember crying 4 times. I remember the scene on the subway with him and his son, and him just trying to protect his son, but all of a sudden he turns into the angry black man, and how quickly that can happen because of enwhitelement. So another one you need to check out, super quick read, 150 pages. It's just a really long, beautiful letter. Next, Color Purple, okay? A lot of people talking about the movie, and it's Black History Month, so it's even playing in a few theaters, at least around my city. But the book, you feel me? The book. Just a beautiful story, and it talks so intricately about black culture and black Southern culture, which I think the majority of us are connected to in America. And it just helps give you some roots when you got to go out there and, you know, I don't know, I have this pen. Shout out to Tombo. Okay. Next, the Autobiography of Assata Shakur. She is so good at jacking down what's good. And because she's not really an academic, she says it so straight that you can't miss it. It is not laced in frill and satin. So along with her just telling her story to reveal how absolutely fucking bogus the justice system is, she also throws in little historical gems as well. I remember her going on this mild tangent explaining why Lincoln freed the slaves. And if you have no idea why he did, I mean, this would be a great place to start. Never meet your heroes, because they suck. Good thing Lincoln's dead. Next on the autobio tip, we've got Angela Davis's. Two moments that I remember distinctly in that autobiography, because again, I read this like 10 years ago. One was when she was in Cuba and she was talking about how hard everybody was working and how beautiful it was, and somebody turned around and was like, I don't need you romanticizing our poverty. So that's one thing. I hate when white people be going on their mission trips and shit, and then they're like, oh, the Black people were so poor, but they were so happy. They'd be happier if they weren't poor. And another thing that I remember is she knew the girls who burned up in the fire in Alabama. It was a hate crime, and she was in Germany at the time. Like, when she found out the news, she was with some classmates of hers. She was away at school, like studying abroad or something, and when she told them, they were white, and they were just like, oh, that's too bad. Like, it was just passing, just went over them. And the privilege to not have to carry that grief because you feel like the community is so distant from yours is Enwhitelement. Okay, next, this I might be check me if you need to. The classic slave narratives? Come on, bro. Wait, is this the one I read? No, I read the one with Booker T. Washington. This must be Brian's. Anyway, I read a classic slave narrative with Booker T. Washington telling his story, and again, if you just need to remember who the fuck you are, bro, read that. What he had to do to go to college, and then what he had to do to start Tuskegee, and then the Black people trying to stunt in DC, renting clocks for 50 cents a month or something so that they can look like they got money. Till as old as time. It's great. You'll be feeling Black and powered, which is what you need to combat Enwhitelement. Favorite book on the planet, Bluest. I'm put this on every list that I ever create. Need I say more? Again, Toni, nuances of Black femalehood, Black girlhood. She just lay it all out, like all out. That one and Eloquent Rage, like you just read those back to back and it should be just a boop, boop. That's how it would be. And she's out. And you'll be feeling yourself, and you'll close the book, and you'll be really salty that it's over, but it will be over, but you can read it again, but you can never read anything again for the first time, which is just the worst. Remember when Lemonade came out, we were like, who wrote these fire prose? And it was Warsan Shire, and she wrote that quick little pamphlet of poetry, like it was kind of a book, but barely a book, teaching my mother to give birth. Do you remember that? Again, beautiful, quick. You just need to put your feet underneath you to go fight out in this cold, cruel world. It's a brilliant anthology of poetry. I'm not even huge into poetry. I really like my fiction and my like, wow, how could this actually be nonfiction? But regardless, I think that you guys would all really enjoy that, and it's quick. And you can just like review them over and over again because the poems aren't extremely long, but they're extremely insightful and extremely nuanced and speak to our culture and experiences beautifully. Next is Mama's Girl by Veronica Chambers. That's really her memoir. She talks about growing up on the East Coast with an immigrant mother and how hard she works to escape the teetering of poverty that she lived on, her escaping the emotional disservice that her parents did to her by getting divorced, and all of that is just woven and wrapped around the fact that she is a black woman whose roots really aren't even in the United States, which offers another perspective for this. I remember I read that book in like a day. Lastly, The Street by Ann Petry. It's a really sad story that takes place in the 40s about a single mom who's trying to survive. After I read that book, I went and did research around what she was pulling all of these experiences from to find out the realities that she was trying to speak to, given that it was the 40s in Harlem, and I am very removed from that at this current point in my life. Finding out how systematically the racism was then and how like nothing's changed but the names or the titles or the color of the buildings. It really made me realize what we were up against and how there was just no time to fold. You had to show up and be your realest self all the time. So also check that one out. It's a hefty novel. It's sad, so give yourself space, but it's a beautiful story. I hope that you enjoyed this list. Please comment below what you would add to an Enwhitelement combat list, and I'll see you guys in a few days. Okay, goodbye.